While mowing earlier this week, the pretty new zero-turn Airens began making really bad noises. Fortunately, the person mowing immediately turned off the blades and the noises stopped. So did a little investigation and found that chunk of blade broken right off. Looking underneath, that was from the nearest blade to the exhaust, to the outlet. So we are going to go through changing the blade. Nope, not doing that. So we're going to try to remove the deck and have some fun. What I have found so far is there are 4 linkage points, 2 in the back here and 2 to the front. So those are the linkages I need to remove, and the belt itself looks like it'll come off pretty easily. So I prepared my working space, basically swept the driveway. I already took the pins and both the cotter pins and the shear pins off of the other side. I'm just going to work on these 2. I got the cotter pins off already. Nice little locking pins. But was able to do it since I've got these spacers underneath. I brought the deck all the way down to ground level, but this spacer leaves a couple inches up, so the stress is not on the supports. The stress is sitting on the blocks. So this pin, this shear pin here, moves really easily. Get that out. I don't have my magnet tray, so I'm just sticking it on a magnet. Let's see if this one comes out just as easy. This one, taking a little more, use a persuader on it. And encourage it to come out the backside. There we go. And it's coming out just fine. With the second hand, it would be even better. Or a third hand for that matter. But my third hand is inside. All right, so those are off. Not gonna put you on the magnet yet. Now I'm gonna go underneath. You can see the belt right here is running all the way to the back, and it's pretty loose. So let's take a look from the back side and see how that attaches. It's just going right around the drive there. There is no additional supports. On my other lawnmower, I've got to take off a guide to be able to get the belt off. This one, since I've taken the weight off, there we go, belt comes off real easy. Well, the deck is off, and you can see where the broken blade is. So the other 2 look good. Broken blade is right here, and take a look. As this thing rotated, it was not completely off right away, so it was probably hanging on a little bit for several rotations. So each of those little striations is, as the blade turned, it was loose and kept hitting the wall here. I'm sure right now if I was to run it just with the half a blade, it would be out of balance and would keep jiggling around and making noise too, but I'm sure the sound that they were hearing was the damage being done here. Not horrible damage. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Right now, I'm going to work on getting this blade off. You can see I've already fit the socket to it, and it worked. I'm using a 15/16 socket. My 1-inch here sits a little loose on here, but when I started, the 1-inch felt a little loose, but I couldn't get the 15/16 on, kind of like the second one over here. My 1-inch gets a little loose, but my 15/16 can't quite get on there. I needed to use a screwdriver, get all of that debris and things off of there be sure and use the right socket. You want the socket that's going to be the tightest fit possible, or you're going to be stripping the nut. So I'm going to put a block in here. Another thing I like about this Airens, with all of these walls here, it gives me a lot of place to put my nut, or to put my support. So I'm going to be turning to the left, going to be going counterclockwise, put my breaker bar in place. This breaker bar rotates, so really nice. I like this breaker bar that I can rotate it. I'm going to put myself at about this angle so I can put all of my weight downwards on this. And I've got movement already. I didn't even use any penetrating oil yet. So now the beauty of this breaker bar, I don't have to reset. All I'm gonna do, rotate it, come back up. There we go. Now I can just bring it out and spin. Really nice bar. So as I take this off, it looks like there's a washer in here as well. So I'm gonna get my nut off of here, put it right down here so I don't lose track. I've got my washer, got some grass and things built up here, nice and smooth on the other side. I might clean it up a little before I put it back on. Everything's nice and clean under here. Take note of the way, and take a look at that, put a little gouge into the wood there that was supporting it. Take a note of the way that the blade sits. You want your blade, the cutting part of the blade is sitting flat, kind of parallel to the ground when we're mowing. This flange up here is really throwing the grass back up into the chamber here so that you can get a little better cut out of it. So take a note of how the blade is set in there. Take a picture. Not a bad idea. Take a picture of anything you're working on before you start to disassemble. That way you're going to get it right when you reassemble it. So get that out of there. I'm ready for the next blade. Everything's cleaned up. Looks pretty good. I didn't pressure wash. Decided it was just good enough to get everything out of here. I'm not going to eat dinner off of this thing, so I'm not too concerned. But I got down to the point where I can see paint. I can see if there are any cracks, anything concerning in here. I have all 3 new blades on. I haven't tightened them down yet. To tighten these, I'm just going to use that same process I did before. So I'll put a block in here to stop that blade from rotating. Get my breaker bar, put it in place. In this case, I'm going to rotate clockwise. I'm going to just rotate this until I can feel some really good torque. I'm not trying to fit a torque standard. I don't have a foot-pound that I'm shooting for. I couldn't find that online. So I'm going to tighten it down until it's tight enough that I can make it tight just by hand. I'm not going to step on the breaker bar to get it tight, but I'm going to get it kind of like putting on a lug nut on your car. You want it nice and tight, but you want to be able to get it off eventually as well. The other thing that I did on the backside, or on the top, I had a bunch of grass sticking out under, you can see a little bit still there. I don't want grass on any moving part. I don't want grass being built up. So I just used an air compressor, took my air compressor, that nice needle end to it, and just blew out any debris, especially underneath. And I'm going to go through on the same thing in the engine compartment and other places. And you can see in the engine compartment there's some bits of trees. I'm going to get everything out of there that might, with friction, with other considerations, that could start a fire. This is one of the causes that we see of lawnmower fires, and I've seen several pieces of farm machinery start just because of buildup of debris on moving parts. Friction causes heat, which can start this on fire. So something to be aware of, something to consider when you're cleaning, when you're working with equipment. Okay, the deck is on. Okay, the deck is in place. Nothing is mounted yet. Our first thing is going to be to put this belt back on. The last thing we did for disassembly was taking the belt off, so now we need to put it back on. So make sure that the V is pointed in. This is the drive for it, so we want that V in. There's a spring on the deck itself. And that spring is giving me just a little bit of movement here. There we go. You can hear the spring twanging as we were done. So our belt is on. Now we're gonna move up to the next step. I wanna put these rear mounting brackets on. I will save the front ones for last. That was the first thing I took off was the front. That's the last thing I'll put back on is the front. A lot of systems, that's what you're gonna do. Your reassembly, your last steps are just gonna be a reverse of whatever your first steps were. So I can move my deck around a little bit, get myself into a position. Trying to do this all at once. Again, this is another one where another hand becomes handy. But move my deck until I'm actually lining up my holes. I've got my shear pin in place. Bring the deck up just a little bit. Shear pin just went right in. So here's my shear pin lined through. I'm not going to put the cotter pin in just yet. So the shear pin is this big thick pin that is going to take shearing weight. It's taking the weight. All the cotter pin is doing is this guy right here. All that cotter pin is doing is stopping this pin from sliding back out. But notice I'm not really taking any weight in there yet. Got a lot of movement. So let me get the other side lined up and then I can start on the front. All right, final pin ready to go in. Little tight, not surprising. That last one frequently is. There we go. But even then, I was able to do it just by hand, using my back to push back the mower a little bit. Get that cotter pin in place to hold it. That's not going anywhere. I still have my blocks in place here. So my blocks are still underneath. I need to get those out. So first thing, I'm going to close the hatch, sit on a pile of tools, raise the deck all the way to its full height, and just put the pin in place right there. So my deck is all the way up. I should be able to drive away at this point. So let's see. One-handed driving with a couple blocks to ride over. Okay. Listen to that purr. Now comes the big test. That blade sounds pretty good.